We got to do so many things that were so wonderful, like traveling around. We lived in Italy. We got to live in California while he was going to language school. We lived in Washington, D.C. for a while. So it, him being an agent really provided just an amazing amount of experience and sort of life exposure for my sister and I.
Oh, it was the cool of cool. My dad might as well have been walking around the house with a cape on. I was the baby of the family. And this is probably just theory of my own, but I always thought that my dad wanted a boy. And I think that I filled that role for him quite well. I was very comfortable mixing cement with him on his bricklaying company on the weekends and go to Yankees games. I still love to watch baseball because it reminds me of times with them.
My dad always tried to protect us from, I think, what he was doing and the severity of it and the danger of it. And he did that by just trying to sort of make everything fun.
I used to go to work with him just because I thought it was so interesting. And some of his agents, especially on C-17, would give me fake cases to solve and things to type up. And God, some of those guys on C-17 probably to this day remember me torturing them at work. But I had a blast. It's still some great memories.
Sometimes what you anticipate as the enemy in life and what you fear is not actually what turns out to be the reality, and that certainly was the case here. I think my mom, probably worried about my dad's line of work, and she spent many years dealing with that and worrying about that, and in the end, it wasn't that at all that took his life. It was a couple years after we had moved back from Italy, and we were living in Garden City in New York, and it was a Tuesday morning, and I had gotten up and gotten ready for school. I walked into their room, and he was still in bed, and he was sick. And I remember walking in and him saying, "Who are you?" He didn't know who I was. A couple days later, he was diagnosed with a brain tumor.
The nature of a glioblastoma is that it infects everything, not only your brain, but your family, the support that you have, the friends that you know. It's a very vicious tumor. The FBI was part of the nuclear family. Even though the trauma happened to my nuclear family, the extended family has always been there for me.
Without the association's help and, without them sort of setting everything up for us in advance, I think it would have been really difficult for my mom to get everything together, both financially and just emotionally too, to be able to take us to look at college campuses and go through the application process and figure out, how she was going to pay for it. I think that he would be really happy to know that all these years later, we're giving back in a small, small way to an organization that he gave to, and that gave back to us. I mean, it can't come more, full circle than that. When someone dies, it's easy to be angry and to wonder why. And I think we all did that for a certain amount of time for many years. And then, as I became an adult, I realized that there's still a way to connect to somebody, even if they're not here physically. I think that's why it was so moving when the association did this for us, because it wasn't just a check that came every month or tuition that got paid. It was really the humanity behind that gesture. And still to this day, my sister and I and my mom keep in touch with agents and people that worked with my dad. And it's been a sort of just a really moving experience to have my dad sort of holding our hand through the rest of our lives through the course of this association.
I'd probably ask him to go to a Yankee game, honestly. That would be like... Sorry. Yeah, I'd probably ask him to go to a Yankee game, maybe come see my office and show him my business card that said Dr. Bondanza.
Agents can and do put their lives on the line to protect their fellow citizens. And it's important to know that their fellow agents are behind them in terms of looking after their families should something happen to them, and things do happen to them, sadly. It's nice to know that many other people support the FBI and its work and its families, but for the Agents Association itself to take an interest in making sure that their children have an opportunity to attend college and to do the things that the agent would have done had he survived, that's important.
The Agents Association has always been tremendously supportive of the families of those who are lost in the line of duty, whether it be providing educational funding or providing immediate assistance for medical care. FBI family members know that regardless of what happens, the rest of the FBI family will be there to help, and they deserve a tremendous amount of credit for that alone. But in addition to that, in addition to bringing up issues that are very close and dear to the agent community, they're very effective on the Hill in making arguments that as the director you're not able to make, but they are able to make as representatives of the agent population. And so for giving us telling us what is happening in the field, it's tremendously important. Providing support to the families who have lost a loved one, they're tremendously important, and they're tremendously important in terms of convincing those in Congress that they need to take care of the Bureau if the Bureau is to take care of the American people.
This is a long-standing group. I'm proud to have been a member, I think, my entire time in the FBI. And we know that when times get difficult, or particularly difficult for agents and their families, that this group is in the background ready to help.
It has been my honor to help agents in need, whether it's the tragic death of an agent in which we are providing the Memorial College Fund package to the family, or a small child of an agent that's going through a terrible illness, that we're able to provide relief to that family, to give them one less thing to worry about.
I attended a lot of funerals, too many funerals, over the 9 years that I served as director. But one particularly stood out in my mind at a little southern town, and the community all turned out of respect for the fallen agent. And the minister, in making his remarks, summed it all up in this way. He said, "You know, he stood in our place." And that was something that struck me and has stayed with me because it's true. The fallen agent had stood in the place of his fellow citizens, and his family deserves the support that the Agents Association provides through scholarships and other opportunities.
I started as a director a week before September 11th. One of the first responsibilities one had at that time is to attend the funeral of one of the agents that we lost on September 11th. Lenny Hatton, married, 4 kids. On that day, was driving into Manhattan. He was a bomb tech, and saw what was happening, goes down to, as opposed to leaving, going away, goes down to the towers. And as the story is told, he goes in, pulls a person out, and then goes back in to rescue somebody else and loses his life. His patriotism, his disregard of his own safety, his desire to go in and help somebody else is emblematic of what the Bureau has done over the years of its existence.
Somebody once told me that what you do for yourself, dies with you, but what you do for others, remains and prospers.
I went for my 21-week ultrasound, just regular routine, and the ultrasound tech sort of in the middle of it stopped doing what she was doing and left and went and got the doctor. And the doctor came in and after a while and said, "I've never seen this before, but apparently I think your daughter has something called a CCAM, and I'm gonna send you to another hospital because I don't know how to deal with it." At that point, they said, we don't treat that here. It's, I think, a 1 in 30,000+ shot of getting it, and they just don't deal with it. So they told us we needed to go to the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia and have them take a look at it. I was healthy, and so I didn't expect anything to be wrong with her. So we were just really shocked and sad and just,
Spent a lot of time praying about it.
yeah.
You know, it's just, we knew that this was the cards we've been dealt, and there was a reason for it. And
So we had to start figuring out logistics really quickly. I think there are just 2 hospitals in the country that really deal with this. If you live east of the Mississippi, you go to CHOP. And so to go from the uncertainty of my initial doctor, who's like, I had to look this up in the medical dictionary, to people who were like, we treat 2 or 3 cases like this a week, was just amazing, you know, so a huge relief.
when Scarlett was born, it was beautiful because she came out just crying away, so we knew that her lungs were working. 6 days later, she went into surgery, and you know, you're looking at this little baby, and you know, like, how do you make the first cut? I don't even understand how you can get in there and make the first cut into her side, and you know, then you're going back to the waiting room, just.
I never want to see her like that again. It was awful when she came back. I mean, just, she's so little. She was a little baby, 6 pounds, 6 ounces. And so to come back and her side, you know, just bruised and has tubes coming out of her. And, you know, you just never think about seeing your little baby that way. We never felt like a charity case. We never felt like they felt obligated to do anything for us because we didn't ask, you know. They just approached us, like he said, and offered us so much assistance, and we honestly didn't hesitate in taking him up on it because they, the way they presented it was just like, no, this is what it's here for. We're here to help people exactly like you, and even though you didn't think to ask about it, that's okay. That's our job, you know, is to think about that for you. This was so unexpected and out of the blue, getting their support in this situation. The circumstances that led me to know that we have it and what they can do weren't pleasant, but the situation worked out. In so many ways, it was a blessing to us, in so many ways. We couldn't really be more thankful for their support and how things turned out. We took her back for one follow-up appointment when she was 6 months old. And they did a chest x-ray and said, her lung's growing back, everything's fine. You never have to come back.
Being able to be there to help with things like that, it's really what we should be doing for each other. And we have an opportunity to do that. And it's the right thing to do. And that's what we all strive for, is doing the right thing. And this college fund and this assistance fund are the right things to do for the people who deserve it.